Now all our demoniac traits have gone away after witnessing Prahlad and Lord Nrsimhadev. Lord Nrsimhadev is Bhakti Vighna Vinashak. All the impediments that come in the way of our devotional service, Lord Nrsimhadev destroys them all. So this was very, very auspicious to see this very wonderful drama. I'd like to say a few words about the two exercises we had yesterday and then now today. Yesterday's exercise was essentially meant to illustrate how sometimes we become more keen for our own individual progress or benefit, and sometimes you cut into the collective benefit. Our individual gain is at the expense of the others or of the group. But rather, if everybody cooperates together, then the group as a whole gains. Even though individually one may or may not get as much as one might have, but nevertheless, the whole group gains. And sometimes in the risk to try to make individual gains, we actually end up making huge losses. So it is always better for us to cooperate with each other. That's also a divine principle. A demoniac principle is there's lack of cooperation because there is ego, there is self-interest, and so on. And the second exercise that we did today was intended to bring out what we think are the divine qualities we have, and what are the divine qualities we would like to have, and also what were the demoniac qualities we have which we would like to overcome. So this was a very good exercise, but it doesn't end here. It has to be a lifelong thing. Maybe not sitting in these groups like this, but individually in our hearts we have to constantly deal with them. The most common divine traits that devotees felt, that all of you felt you had, and also those you would like to develop, are like appreciating devotees. That seem to be very common. That is an aversion to fault finding, tolerance, compassion, simplicity, humility, and so on. And the demoniac traits that were most common were anger and lust. Anger at number 1, lust at number 2, and then others like envy, etc. By the way, envy is one quality that you can't engage in the service of Krishna. You can engage everything else in the service of Krishna, but envy is one thing you can't. Although at one place, Srila Prabhupada does mention that if at all you have to be envious of the non-devotees, but he probably meant it in the way that we stay away from them, we become indifferent to them. Now, when we talk of envy, we mean in a sense of becoming jealous of people. And even the transcendental competition that is there is joy in that. There's another group that has done more, so let me also do more so that that will spur that devotee or that group to do even more better than us. So the idea in transcendental competition is to encourage other devotees to do more than us, so that overall the service of Krishna grows and expands. Sometimes we see that this transcendental competition can have different forms. I remember many, many years ago when there were different groups that went out for distributing books during the December book marathon. There was intense competition between different groups for who would distribute more books. And there was one, devotees used to resort to different tricks to disable the other group. One devotee, I remember one time he went out, it became a big issue then. He went and deflated the tires of the bus of the other party. And another devotee went and did something else. So of course they got a little carried away. Now with this sort of competition, what happens? The overall book distribution would come down. Those devotees would do less. So rather, had we helped them to do something by encouraging, by doing it ourselves, and inspired them to do more, then that would be transcendental competition, where everybody helps everyone to rise and rise and rise. In the material world, it's the other way around. When there's competition, we want to pull down everybody else. Rather than help everyone to rise, and so we can be below and push them up, spirit and material life, we want to rise above everyone by putting them down. This is called a crab mentality. You know, when there are, just like there are fishermen who like to catch fish and sell them in the market, there are also people who collect crabs and then they sell them. Because there are some people who perhaps eat crabs, I think. So what they do is they put all these crabs in a basket, in a wicker basket. And the basket doesn't have any lid. Now if it doesn't have a lid, we may think, well, these crabs may escape. But the fisherman is not worried at all. Why? Because these crabs are inside. Maybe there are 5, 10, 15 crabs inside that basket, which is open. Now the moment one crab tries to crawl out, the other one sees, oh, he's escaping, and they all pull him down. Meanwhile, the other one tries to slip away, but the others are all vigilant to see who will slip away. So they catch him and pull him down. So they all get trapped like that. They could all have come to an agreement and said, okay, let's just all walk out. There's nobody to stop them, there's no lid. They could easily all have crawled out and become free. But the mentality of the crabs was, I may get stuck, but I don't want him to get free. This is the demoniac mentality, where I may fail, but I don't want the other person to succeed. This is materialistic mentality, and spiritual mentality is we want everyone to progress. One devotee was one time explaining, he was a German, that one of his relatives, he had a bad relationship with his wife. That means his uncle and aunt had bad relationships, so they divorced each other. And it was such a bitter separation between them. And there was some divorce law or something in Germany that you'd have to give 50%. The court said you have to give 50% of your wealth to your wife at the time of the divorce. So this man, the uncle of this devotee, was not a devotee. There was so much bitterness and hatred he had in his mind towards the wife. He sold his house that was in his name, that was worth maybe a few $1 million for $50 or 50 marks. So he gave 25 marks to his wife. He lost millions of dollars, but he wanted to make sure she wouldn't get millions of dollars. Because he sold it for a throwaway price, it's $50, $100 or something, marks or whatever it is. So she got 50% of that. So then he was keeping the law. This is the mentality, that lose-lose mentality. Nowadays we hear all these terms, lose, 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 win, win, lose, win, win. So what should we be? Win, win. So when will that time come when we will develop the win-win attitude? Instead of whine attitude. Whine means to complain. So then, in Krishna consciousness, these divine qualities means we are always encouraging everybody else, and we are happy if somebody crosses us and goes above us, and somebody excels and becomes better than us. We become happy. So it is very nice that all of you have come up with all these nice realizations and introspections. On the topic of compassion, that was also some of the things, one of the qualities mentioned as something we would like to develop. It just struck me because compassion is an act of in the mode of goodness, and the word compassion can be split into kam, which in Hindi means less, and passion. So when you have to have compassion on others, you have to reduce your mode of passion. You have to have little more on the mode of goodness, then you can feel for others. Otherwise it is more passion. So the idea of this workshop was essentially to just provide food for thought about these different qualities that are in our hearts. Eventually we have to subdue these demoniac qualities and let the divine qualities flourish so that we can progress in Krishna consciousness and become pure devotees. So we have just a few questions now. I think we have time just for a few quick questions. I don't think we'll be able to cover all. Just a few quick questions. About the topic of envy or jealousy, is it okay to feel that this person has a particular thing, I also want it? For example, close association of advanced devotees, as opposed to the thought, no one but I should have this thing. Well, that's all right. If someone has an association of devotees, I would also like to have it, it's fine, so long as you don't think that he shouldn't have it, I should have it. That's not good. Let him have it, I also want it, let others also have something good. Let everybody flourish, let everybody prosper. So if you want a good thing, it's not wrong to desire it, provided you don't want it at the expense of somebody else. And the test also is that in case you are not able to get that good thing, then you will not lament or feel envious of the other person or complain about the other person. Why is it that this devotee is getting it all the time but not me? Okay. All right, another sensitive point. Okay, husbands, you hear carefully now. If my husband is spending money without my knowledge, and if I would like to take control of it, am I greedy? For sure, he is not spending the money for Krishna consciousness. I think somebody is going to get me in trouble I'll have to be very diplomatic and very careful. Never know who asks what question. First and foremost, it's better that both husband and wife are devotees and that both spend the money for Krishna consciousness. And as far as the husband spending money without the wife's knowledge, well, that's something that you have to sort out. But keep the weapons aside and just sit down nicely and discuss it and see what is practical and what works for you. I know all sorts of cases. There are different, and depends on person to person. In some cases it's very good. In some cases it doesn't work out very nicely. Either way. So that's something practically you all can sit and work out. It depends on the mutual relationship. About your answer to the common question, how much is enough, you said that whatever is there now is enough. What about someone who has just started out in Grihastha life and has just started making efforts to earn money and settling financial goals for the life ahead? No problem. When we say whatever you have now is enough, we don't mean that you stop working and don't earn any more in your life. We're not saying that. We're saying that let destiny bring in its course what it will. You do your honest endeavor, what is possible with reasonable effort, and leave the rest to Krishna. We are not saying certainly that you should not plan. Yes, Grihastha should plan. But make reasonable plans, make reasonable efforts. Your plan should not be too unrealistic. They should be practical. Why only saffron color for sannyasis and not any other color? Is there any reason behind it? Looks very fashionable. Saffron is the color that represents renunciation. That's why. It burns up all the desires. That's the reason the saffron color is there. Okay, now the wives, you please pay attention. Maharaj, sometimes my wife's anger seems more fearsome than Narasimhadev's anger. I think we need some help here. I don't think there is a solution for that. We've already given up hope. What I want to ask, what can we do when the anger comes and when we are unable to do things we are supposed to do? Any experienced people would like to give tips on how they have managed to cope with such situations? Maybe gradually, if the wife is also attending this seminar here, then she will also hear and try to control her anger and remember Narasimhadev. Then naturally her anger will come down. So you help her anger to come down by chanting Hare Krishna nicely and dealing with things in such a way that the cause for provocation is minimized. Maybe there's some provocation, maybe there's some negligence or some other fault because of which she's getting so enraged every time. And maybe it's also a flaw in the psychology, so that also needs some help. Before Krishna consciousness, I felt myself to be a good person most of the time. Now in Krishna consciousness, every day in every seminar, I feel I'm doing so many mistakes. And doing same mistakes repeatedly. How to control this, my bad qualities. That's what the seminar was about. Chant Hare Krishna. Become a very nice devotee. You see, the first important thing in curing ourselves when we are sick is to identify the disease. There are many times when people have illnesses, they have some pain or they have some other problem, and the doctors are not able to diagnose the disease. And you go through a battery of tests and investigations and diagnosis, and they just can't figure out what is wrong with you. It's paining for sure, but they don't know why. And finally, after some time, then they're able to pinpoint, yeah, this is the reason. Then the cure can start. So before we became devotees, we weren't even aware of these things. Now we have diagnosed the problem. When we attend the satsangs, we understand what the problems are. So now we can solve them. Because in the association of devotees, we not only learn what the disease is, but we also learn the solution. Krishna consciousness. If there is no trace of envy in the spiritual world, then why have we got the envy to fall down from our constitutional position in the first place? The $1 million question. Yes, somehow or the other, wherever we were, we don't know where we were. Wherever we were, we chose to be independent of Krishna. For some unknown, mystical, inconceivable reason. So therefore we are here. But now that we are here, we have to pay the price for that fundamental decision. And Krishna promises that once we go back, then there is no more returning to this world. Greed for devotional service for yourself is good or bad? Very good. That is necessary. We must be greedy for Krishna consciousness. We must want more and more of devotional service. At the same time, of course, we must also ensure that others will get that benefit also. We shouldn't think, I will just do it only for myself. We must share it with others. If you are happy doing devotional service and other family members are not happy, how can you make them happy? By making them devotees. Then they will automatically be happy. Introduce them to devotees. Deal in such a nice way that they will have a good impression of what a devotee is. If you are the only devotee in the family and you behave in a way that they find objectionable, then they will go away from Krishna consciousness. But if we act in an exemplary way, then they will also feel inspired to come to Krishna consciousness. How can we use illusion in his service by attaining knowledge? Please help me to understand. Well, illusion means to not understand the reality as it is. So it is not that we are directly using illusion in the Lord's service, but we are using knowledge in the service of the Lord. We are giving up illusion to serve Krishna. You said we should not get angry over little things. Is it okay to get angry over serious issues? If yes, then it will still cause devastation. And where do we draw the line about what is a serious issue? Well, let's begin with small issues first. Let's at least not get angry with small issues. As far as big issues are concerned, it depends. Sometimes it may be necessary to get angry, but the way in which we express our anger and whether we are being controlled by anger or we are controlling anger is also an important consideration. Srila Prabhupada cautions that one should not use anger in this way unless one is very mature as a devotee. Unless one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, one cannot play around with these things. There is every possibility it may backfire. Because Prabhupada used to sometimes get angry at people he was speaking to. So one devotee asked him one time, is it alright if we get angry when we are preaching? So Prabhupada said, yes, provided it has a positive result. But you don't know whether it will have a positive result. So therefore don't create any more enemies, Prabhupada said. So we have to be very cautious about that. What is a serious issue or not, again, depends on person to person, case to case. Especially situations where something very grave is at stake that will adversely impact your Krishna consciousness in a very significant way, today or tomorrow, that will definitely be a serious issue. How can one overcome or break free of addictions that are extremely deeply ingrained in us, whether it's lust, illicit activities, etc.? The answer to break free of lower addictions is to get a higher addiction. The higher addiction is to be addicted to Krishna, to be addicted to chanting, to be addicted to reading. One time I met one devotee and we were talking, and very casually he mentioned, I'm addicted to reading Srimad Bhagavatam every day. And I was really happy to hear that. A nice way to put it. He says, I can't go to bed unless in the day I have read some Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's addicted to Srimad Bhagavatam. That kind of addiction is good. So by cultivating addiction to various types of activities in Krishna consciousness, especially hearing and chanting, we can overcome the addictions of the material energy. The Unpleasant incidents caused by others really hurt and are difficult to let go. How does one forget and forgive where the ones we trust act unreasonably and continue to hurt us? What options do we have? The only other option is we continue to bear ill will in our heart. Is that going to be helpful? No. We have to choose. Choose the option that is less painful. If you continue to harbor the ill will against the other devotees or persons, whoever they are, the pain will be more. So it is better to use our spiritual intelligence to try to forgive, muster up all the spiritual intelligence and sincerity we have, and beg to Krishna to give us the power to forgive and forget and move on. Look at the positive qualities in the other person. Look at my contribution to the problem. You see, when people come to me with a problem between two people, and one person is telling his or her side of the story, usually they will tell their side of the story, isn't it? So after I hear them, then I ask the question, what is your contribution to the problem? Because there must be some contribution. Even though you may have found fault in the other person, he said this or she did this, but have you also contributed to this problem in some way, small or big? Then that person starts thinking, so yeah, maybe I did this, maybe I should have not done that. So when somebody is behaving like that, we can also introspect to see whether we have contributed something to that problem. Sometimes even in devotee community, there is competition of children's education. Who is more famous, who is conducting and attending more programs. I feel that when I'm so caught up in this, how to deal with this? If I take a step back, then I risk being left out from devotee circle. Yes, we should not even want to seek the prestige of being famous within the devotee community. That is also another kind of pride. We heard about that. Dambhaha, Darpaha, Abhimanaha. So no, we don't seek that. We only want to serve. We don't want to utilize devotional service for some purpose, gross or subtle. And to get some reputation or name or fame in the community of devotees is also a very subtle kind of self-interest. It's very dangerous, sometimes very difficult to identify. It is one of the weeds of devotional service that arise along with the creeper of devotional service. Sometimes hard to identify and distinguish. So one has to be very introspective and honest. When one sees this desire coming out, one must do the needful. It may be that we encourage others to take a lead role. Not that we want to dominate and be in the forefront all the time. That we can encourage others to take leading roles in everything, so that we become detached from that. So the way to become detached from this kind of anartha or unwanted thing is to help others go forward and assist them. Even though we may be more experienced. In this way we will be able to overcome it. When I see devotees making some mistakes in their service like speaking, singing, cooking, is it appropriate to correct them or does it fall under the category of fault finding? If not taken in the right spirit, does it mean that I commit offense? Is such an act of correction divine or demoniac? Now, it's a big topic. There are many questions when it comes to correcting others, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. Number one, when we see somebody committing a mistake or a fault, first and foremost, we have to appreciate it may not actually be a mistake. It may be just my perception. I give you the example of Yudhishthir Maharaj, seeing that man drawing the water from the well on Ekadashi. And he presumed that he was drawing it to drink water himself, but actually he was doing it for his cattle. And then he realized, oh, I attributed a fault to him when actually it didn't exist. So the one thing, before we make corrections to other people, the first thing to determine is whether there is actually a fault there or not. It may be that there is no fault and I just misunderstood the situation. It's quite possible, and it happens many times. Sometimes there's a miscommunication. Sometimes there may be just a mistake on our part. We misunderstand something somebody said or something, and we come to the conclusion. We may not understand sometimes why a person has done a certain thing. And there may actually be very valid grounds, and it may not be a mistake. When you actually hear the whole story, then you will realize it wasn't a mistake. But given the limited information that I had, I thought it was a mistake. So I said, no, you did a mistake. So therefore, the thing to do is, number one, first of all, at least we must be clear whether there is a mistake or not. Sometimes it's hard to make out whether there is a mistake. Second, what is our motivation in pointing out that mistake? Is our heart clean? Do we want to point out that person's mistake because we want to show that I'm better? Because we take pleasure in seeing that somebody else has done something wrong? Are we just waiting for an opportunity to be able to point out some mistake that a particular person is doing? Because that person may have pointed out our mistake in the past. So we want to point out a mistake. Or do we genuinely have the benefit of that devotee at heart? Do we have the benefit of the devotee community at heart? Do we want to just raise the standard of devotional service to Krishna? That is important. If our heart is clean, if we are well motivated, and if we are not taking pleasure in seeing other people making mistakes, that means no envy, then yes, then the next step now. Our motive should be to correct for the sake of welfare, for the sake of betterment of that person and others, and for service to Krishna. Next question arises is, even if there is a mistake and it needs correction, am I the right person to do it? Many times it may be that I'm not the right person. Maybe that person won't listen to me anyway, so why should I go and tell? Maybe I'm not that person's authority. Maybe that person needs to be told by somebody else who's senior, or by somebody else who has very good rapport with that person. So if I judge that I'm not the right person to speak, neither do I have the authority to speak, and there are also considerations of etiquette. If somebody is far senior to us, then even if the senior devotee makes a little mistake, it's not right for us to go and say, you did such and such a mistake. It's not the proper etiquette. So, if we are not the right person to do it, then we either just let it be, don't do anything about it, or you go to someone who's in a higher position than that person, who can do something about it, who has authority to help. Then that devotee can do the needful. Then the problem is in that devotee's hands, whether he or she wants to deal with it or not. Now, suppose you are in a position to deal with the problem. Then you go ahead. Then the question arises, how do you want to deal with the problem? Again, do you want to deal by The gentle approach or the harsh approach? Many times devotees who use the harsh approach, they justify their action by saying, I'm a straightforward person. I just speak the truth as it is. That's fine. We should be straightforward, but you can do it in a gentle way. You can do it in a way that will facilitate that person's faith, that will help that person. Ultimately, what is our goal? Is our goal simply to show the other person that I'm right and you're wrong? Or is our goal to ensure that the person's actions are corrected? So, whatever helps. So if we speak gently and point out in a humble way, and first of all determine whether our perception is right by asking things in such a way that we first of all understand information that we may not have known. Many times I have seen things happen, people consider that somebody or some group has made a mistake. And then they criticize that devotee or that group. But later they come to know why those people or that person decided or said such a thing. Then they reverse their decision. Yeah, actually, it was all right. He did the right thing. So we should try to understand from that person whether really, what was the basis for you to do such a thing, say such a thing. And then correct gently if indeed there is such a fault. Sometimes a superior may, in rare cases, speak in a sharp way to a subordinate to correct. That is sometimes the duty of a superior towards a subordinate. But then again, that has to be done very selectively. And as I mentioned earlier, in relationship with the parent and children, it has to be very largely affection and very minimally some harsh words. So this is the way the correction process has to happen. And even after that, if it has no result, then you go to a higher person, it has no result, then just chant Hare Krishna. Then you can pray for that devotee as well. But we should not create disturbances in the devotee community. And even when we take help from other people to solve some problem, we should not do it in a way that politicizes it, that other people will also start gossiping about it. No. We should not encourage such discussions. Then we should just ignore it and go on with our Krishna consciousness. It's a very long answer to your question, although I tried to be brief. So I hope that is of some help. Some very practical questions. It calls for some sensitivity. We have to be a little sensitive. We cannot always presume that we are right. Others could also be right, and I could be wrong. Or both of us could be right at the same time, even though we have done things differently. Next, in the mood of helping and serving devotees, I many times forget to understand the uncomfortability that can be caused to other devotees involved. Is this my demoniac quality or divine quality? That means in the mood of helping and serving devotees, I cause them discomfort. Well, of course, we shouldn't cause them discomfort. So we should judge. If we are causing discomfort, then we shouldn't do whatever action it is that is causing inconvenience. It is said that trying to satisfy Krishna is love, and to satisfy our senses is lust. But in this world, if we try to do things which are beneficial to our loved ones, like husband, parents, friends, etc., both Krishna conscious and material things, is that considered love or lust? Well, we have to do it in connection with Krishna. You disconnect something from Krishna, it becomes lust. Grihasthas will have social obligations. Even we may have, brahmachari sannyasis may also have social obligations. We may have, because we are staying in a country, we have to follow the laws of the land. I cannot say I'm a sannyasi, I will not follow the laws of the country. I have an obligation, I have to follow it. So we can certainly be careful about these things. But we see the connection to Krishna. If you see your family as a gift of Krishna and you are working towards making your family Krishna conscious, then looking after them is not a mundane thing. But one has to be a little discriminating to see that we don't simply succumb to mundane sentimentality. We must do things sensitively, with compassion, with care, with responsibility, and yet in a Krishna conscious way. Next question. You explained that devotees should be simple and straightforward. But I have always seen devotees who are simple and straightforward are dominated by the devotees who are diplomatic, and always a victory is for the diplomatic devotees. Oh, somebody has had some bitter experience, looks like. Whether they're telling the truth or not, it is confusing. Please explain how to be simple and not to be dominated. Just be the way you are. Simple. Don't worry. Victory is always for those. Don't look in terms of victory in mundane terms. If we remain simple and straightforward, we will be victorious in Krishna's eyes. Why do we have to worry about whether somebody else emerges victorious from the worldly point of view? Judge defeat and victory by what pleases Krishna, not the common conception of what is victory and defeat. We are not here for victory and defeat amongst each other. We are not competing with each other. We are here to help each other grow in Krishna consciousness. So that should be our mode. You discussed about modern civilization being demoniac and increasing day by day. My puzzle is that these demoniac people can be superbly intelligent and superbly technical. Why doesn't Krishna weaken them as referred to in Bhagavad Gita 10.10? Why doesn't he weaken their intelligence? He has weakened their spiritual intelligence. And he has increased their material intelligence so that they can destroy each other and cause havoc. Material intelligence can be there because Krishna is fulfilling the desires of every living entity from time immemorial. And according to their karma, somebody may get more intelligence, somebody gets less intelligence. So the important thing is that whatever is given to us in terms of intelligence or ability, we should use for Krishna's service. In materialistic life, office for example, there are moments when you have to forcefully indulge in demoniac activities, like eating in places where prasadam is not served. However, in order to keep our grihasthashram going, we may sometimes not be able to say no to being present there, at least physically. How do we overcome such situations? You are intelligent, find a way out. Different devotees have different ways. Some people are traveling in jobs. You can find some reason to say eat some fruit, if at all you have to. Eat fruit. Nowadays in the West especially, so many people are vegetarians, or they're this or that for health reasons or for environmental reasons. So you can give any reason. And do something that is least damaging. If you think that going to such places is absolutely essential for your livelihood. In many cases it is not really so essential, but in cases that it is very essential, you make do with minimum possible problems. Take some fruit, some yogurt, or something like that. Then it's minimal, and then make sure you offer to Krishna at least in your mind before you eat it. we cannot see the face of the devotee or the deity while traveling or moving around. How can we control our eyes in that situation? I don't understand the question. Maybe we can meet later and see. It is easy to give respect to seniors when they are senior in age. But when we are the same age and same level spiritually, then how to know who is senior? The other person is always senior. Simple. Don't worry about it. Ultimately, who is senior, who is junior? Who knows? Who will go back to Godhead first? Who knows? We may be 30, 40 years ahead of somebody in this life in Krishna consciousness. And somebody comes up and becomes a pure devotee and goes back to Godhead, and we have to spend another 5 lives. Who knows? So better not to make too many judgments. A senior should never be proud of being senior. A senior should always be willing to take a junior position, and then one can understand he or she is really senior. Senior in terms of devotional understanding and qualification. If one demands respect because of one's seniority in terms of initiation, date of becoming a devotee, then that is abhimanaha. That is not good. We should command respect, not demand respect. Respect is commanded by one's qualities, one's words, one's behavior. So if one genuinely is humble and exhibits Vaishnava qualities, automatically devotees will relate to us like that. One might be divine externally but perform demoniac acts mentally. How detrimental is this in spiritual life, and how to control this tendency? Yes, by the same process of Krishna consciousness. Okay, similar question. How can we force someone to pay for a higher cause? For example, to attend a Gita course if they can't afford it. Well, then someone else can sponsor, if that is an issue. Some other devotee can come forward. If somebody is really very poor, can't come, can help out in some way. Or some concession can be given sometime in special cases. Regarding the verse Gunadhikam Mudam Lupsed, which we had discussed from the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, how does one judge the qualification of another person amongst a congregation of devotees where everyone seems fairly at a similar level of qualification? Then it's a question of friendship. Someone who is a little higher, a little lower, doesn't matter. But the basic principle is that we should be happy to see them. We should be friendly with everybody. We should never be envious of anyone. We should never be harsh with anyone. There are clearly more demoniac people in the world than divine. Does that mean there will be more and more demoniac species in the world in the future? In general, in Kali Yuga, yes, except that now Mahaprabhu's movement is here, and so gradually we will see an increase in the number of devotees. When someone appreciates us, for example, for a nice preparation we have made, and the other person has also prepared something, we naturally feel obliged to appreciate the other person's preparation also. Should this be done even if we do not genuinely appreciate the other person's preparation? This is a Mataji who has asked question. What is your bottom line? What is the bottom line? You want to encourage the other devotees in Krishna consciousness. So if you genuinely say it and it is encouraging, then why not? Don't worry about it. And even if there is some little fault in the preparation and you want that devotee to not make the mistake, you can make a general comment about that devotee's abilities and then just point out in this particular item, this such and such thing you can change. Sometimes there is so much seva to do that personal sadhana for the day is mostly completed in the mode of passion or ignorance. Also, the body is so tired, and as a result I get angry and cranky, which shows in my behavior towards others, especially my husband, who is extremely patient, thankfully. How can I overcome this demoniac behavior? By doing your sadhana earlier on, so that then you don't have to do your sadhana in the mode of passion and ignorance. Narad Muni says, be kind and compassionate with people who are less qualified. How can we prevent compassion to degrade? Okay, how can we prevent compassion from becoming condescension? No, condescension means that you feel yourself superior. A devotee will never feel himself or herself superior to others. Out of practical things, we may try to help people and be kind to them, but not because we feel we are better than them. It's just that we feel we are fortunate, we have something, and we like to share something valuable with the other person. But not from the point of view of feeling oneself better. In married life, if there is a difference among the couple, how can both of them try to work it out? By keeping Krishna in the center and by having a cool head and by developing the divine qualities. Are Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, do they come under the category of demoniac persons even if they're doing charity of 90% of their earning? Well, let us not get into specific names of this sort. We have seen qualities. We can't judge people like that. Just place them into neat little boxes all the time. We don't know what other things they may be doing, may not be doing. So we should not simply just make judgments. We don't know what kind of consciousness people may have. They may be, they may not be, we don't know. So yes, thank you very much. Many questions, and I think we've gone over our time for questions. But I hope that we've tried to do justice to everything you may have had to ask so far. I really want to thank you for being a very, very patient, tolerant audience who have exhibited all the divine qualities here. Nobody exhibited even a trace of the demoniac qualities. So thank you very much for being such a cooperative, enthusiastic, patient, faithful audience, and for your participation. I really, with my full heart, I want to thank the devotees who have organized, who took pains and trouble to organize this festival, this 2-day retreat. I don't want to mention names because there may be so many names I may miss out, and then that's not good. There are many devotees who have participated, and I think Asim is going to read out the names of at least some of the devotees. So at least his name, because he's not going to mention his name, I can mention his name. So thank him for taking the lead in organizing this whole 2-day retreat. There's been a lot of work. Very meticulous planning, down to the small details of everything. You can see the charts and this and that, the overseeing of everything, and he had a nice team assisting him. I'm sure they would all want to have more and more devotees participating. We'd like to thank everybody, and also definitely we'd like to thank all the devotees from Radha Gopinath Temple. And we have Vijay Gopikesh Prabhu here also for his kind cooperation and his full participation and enthusiastic support for such programs. And thank you to all of you who have participated and served in any way, small or big. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.